Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we have Sina Nabizadeh on our channel to talk about why he is currently studying on this beautiful campus and his experience into computer graphics as a career. Sina, do you want to introduce yourself, what you're doing, what you're studying, everything about you?
Okay, I'm Sina
Yes.
Nabizadeh. I'm studying PhD computer science here in UC San Diego,
Yes.
in San Diego, California. So I'm studying computer graphics, which is like a branch of computer science where you do make pretty pictures on the computer.
Sina is a big movie guy. That is why he is doing computer graphics, because he wants to make the animations happen.
Yeah.
And he introduced himself. He has a PhD studying computer graphics in UC San Diego. And he is currently, I think he worked for like all of the gaming industries out there, companies out there, most of the companies. Ubisoft, Activision, Blizzard, Patreon.
Treyarch.
There you go. So let's start this university. You chose electrical engineering in undergrad at the University of Waterloo. So why? I know why electrical engineering, because I didn't know how to code, but tell us more about why you chose electrical engineering.
Yeah, electrical engineering is just a good program overall, right? And especially for someone, if you go, well, at least at the time in 2015 or 14. If you apply for University of Waterloo, you had to put like a little section, fill it out with your past coding experience if you wanted to do either computer software or computer science.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that. I have no idea how to code. So I just was like, what's the next best engineering there? Electrical engineering. So there was I in electrical engineering.
Okay, so did you know that there is coding involved in electrical engineering, and how electrical engineering at the University of Waterloo is actually electrical and computer engineering?
No idea. The first time I just went into classes, I was like, who are all these computer engineers doing here? And why are they all talking about coding? And at first I really hated coding because I was like, I don't want to be involved with the coders. But then everything changed.
Wow.
After the Fire Nation attack. But
wow. Okay, guys, so that was just 6 years ago. So 6 years back, 2015, we enter university. None of us here know how to code, but I was a software developer, and Sina here is actually doing a PhD in computer science. So that's what electrical engineering did to us. From my understanding, you hopped over to computer engineering. So can you explain why you made the decision to switch, and what triggered you to pursue computer engineering?
Sure. So essentially, as you said before, it's a program, it's a mixed program. So it's like electrical and computer engineering. So for the first 3 terms, you're essentially doing the same thing, all the computer engineers and electrical engineers. So at some point, after taking a few, programming courses, I was like, this is kind of fun. And pretty much everything sort of changed after me learning that, as someone who likes movies, animation, video games, and all that stuff, that there's a lot you can do with programming in all those fields to do something about it. And my first co-op that I did, co-op is also known as internships elsewhere.
Yeah, Waterloo co-op. I talked about this. Go on.
Yeah, so my first internship was at somewhere called Christie Digital. They make cinema projectors for movie theaters. And so basically when I went to JobMine, which now it's called Waterloo Works, I just typed cinema, C++, because that was the only programming language I actually knew anything about. And there I had a job for my first internship, and it was really fun. Even though it wasn't actually C++ because it ended up being C#, it was okay. I was debugging and putting little features here and there, so I thought I was doing stuff. And my supervisor was just very good, so.
Okay, so I see that from the first year of electrical engineering, you have the basic foundations in C++. You did some logical conditions, you programmed on trees, pathfinding algorithms or whatever.
Sure.
And your first internship in, what is it called?
Christie Digital Systems.
Yeah, so your first internship coding just led you to the path of software development. And after that internship, you decided that you want to make the jump to computer engineering so you can really start coding. Tell me a little more about like what you did like after Christie Digital that made you interested in computer graphics specifically, because like from my understanding, computer graphics is so specific and so niche that like you don't really learn it from class.
Yeah.
So how do you get the experience to do what people don't get to do?
Right. So there's multiple ways I guess someone might get into computer graphics. A lot of my friends actually, they're interested in arts, like they're really like painting or they just really like doing some artistic thing, and they also like coding, so they figure out one way or another into computer graphics, because that's like there's a lot of artists in like these companies like Pixar or like even
for
like
sure.
video game
I can't
companies.
imagine. It's all animations.
Yeah, so someone needs to have that sort of artistic intuition. But I'm not a creative person so much, right? I'm more into like math, physics, and like
That's me too.
and like I also like coding. So for me, it was more like I liked video games, right? And I was like, now that I know coding, there were things called game jams, which are like hackathons. So sorry for all these terms.
I remember
but
the octopus that you made for the game jam. Okay, go on.
So basically, if Lydia hasn't talked about this yet, but hackathons are like these sort of like concentrated 3-day back-to-back.
Not necessarily 3 days. 3 days, 7 days, whatever. But hackathons is an opportunity for people to come together from everywhere in the world and to build projects together.
Yeah. So that's usually for just like any project. But there's a concentrated one on gaming, which is called a game jam, as in like we're jamming together to make a game. And then so I participated in one of those because it happens every semester in Waterloo, and so I did that, and it was like fun because like I was doing a lot of the things that I thought were just like purely magic in terms of like somehow this happens, but like it was just coding. Like it was just like do this and that and that, and like in a engine called Unity, and like that was really fun. So that was my first exposure to like game development. And
so like during the hackathon, tell me more about Game Jam. So for that hackathon, are there like different workshops that you can go to introduce you to Unity? Is that how you picked up Unity?
There's definitely like workshops happening to like teach you how to
But
like
you kind of
start
figured
with.
out that you wanted to do.
Yeah, but like being engineers and also being in
Yeah.
ECE, we're so ready to just like figure out that we need to get somewhere and like kind of get a few hints of like where we can start.
Yeah, it's
and
like
just,
you have A and you have the A starting point, and then you want to go to B, and you're just like, okay, let's Google it. Let's see what I can do. In Unity, okay, that sounds cool. Let's Google more about Unity.
It basically was like one night of me and a friend of mine just like basically Googling the hell out of like everything and just like figuring out so many things. And our first game, we made some sort of a survival horror game, which was actually until this day is a little too scary for myself to even play.
Really? Damn.
But we had like a couple of like scary soundtracks, and like we had some AI, like some enemies following you or like surprising you, and like you could do different things. It was kind of fun.
Okay.
So yeah, that was really fun, and I was like, okay, I can do stuff with like barely knowing any programming language, you know, on a very high level. So from Unity, I got introduced to something else called the Unreal Engine. These are like the common game engines that people can use to get started. Like these engines they can be used professionally, but they can also be used like casually for like any indie developer to like just try out making some games. So Unreal Engine has a very interesting layout, as in like, so you don't necessarily have to code. So you're not like writing a for loop, you're not writing an if statement. You're pretty much like putting up nodes, as in like blobs of logic, and like you're sort of like connecting the dots, and you're sort of saying that like first do this, and then you connect a dot to the next blob, and it's like do one and then do two. So this sort of like connection feeds the data output from the first blob to the next blob, and these blobs are like functions. They're like, you know, when they say function is a black box of input output, so these blobs are like that. So
okay, great. I like that. So Sina introduced us to Unreal Engine and also Unity. So that's his hackathon experience. And so we talked about how Sina is like switching from electrical engineering to computer engineering because he realized how fun coding is, and also how he did the internship at Christie Digital, and that's what he realized, that he can actually do software for a living. And then now he's talking about his hackathon experience, where he like interfaced so many different tools, Unreal Engine.
Yeah, so essentially what I was getting at is that like after we got introduced to Unreal Engine, when I was looking for my next co-op job,
Yes.
I was trying to find something that looks like a gaming sort of project.
Oh, so
like,
for your second internship already, you were looking for a gaming job.
yeah, but like I
Wow,
already knew
impressive.
that, like, because I went to job info sessions. Basically, one of them was from Ubisoft, and like, so one person gave me all these books. He was like, okay, so if you want to do anything, you should like get acquainted with some concepts, and like, here's some books. And it was like 10 books, and I was like, I cannot read 10 books just like that, but
Yeah.
I can start somewhere. So first thing I did, I was like looking for jobs for video games,
Yeah.
but I could never find that exactly. What I did find was even something better, which was I went to this company called Derivative. It's a very, very good company.
That's your second internship?
Yeah,
Dang. Tell us more about Derivative and what you did there.
yeah. So essentially, Derivative has a software called Touch Designer, and Touch Designer is a real-time sort of engine. It's really hard to explain what it is, because
Yeah,
what it does
I'm
really
confused.
is like it's sort of like, imagine like you're an artist, right? Like you have very much creative freedom to imagine pretty things, right? But then the problem is you don't know how to code. Like, let's say you just don't want to code in Python, or you don't want to code in C++.
Yeah.
But you high level know what you want. Like,
Yes.
so this tool, Touch Designer, allows for that. So like, let's say you're a director of a concert. So when you go into concert, sometimes when people like play the music or like playing the drum, they like the lights to light up exactly when they press on the drum, right? Like play a note or something. So like you can actually program that in, like visually program that. That's the best way you can say, like visually programming your logic into with this drums and everything
Yeah.
to like make the lights actually react to your like note playing.
Okay.
Or like when you're in a museum, there might be some light show that does some crazy thing, and like that's like, it's programmed, but it's programmed in a friendly way, and that's what Touch Designer does.
Wow.
So that's what I was doing.
So
my
you were
second-
building, so like, sorry, I understand it from the product perspective now, because you talk so many features of this amazing program, right? So from a full stack perspective, there's a front end, back end, everything in between. What do you do?
Right. So when someone calls something an engine, right, it's sort of like, it's a bunch of tools. It's a collection of tools that
Yeah.
allows someone, say here for an artist, right, to achieve some goal, right? Like
Yeah.
their goal is to light up a concert in a pretty manner, right?
Sure.
Like, so these tools need to be coded up, right? Like these
Yeah.
tools have a backend which is like completely in C++, and like what you see as an artist is just
Yeah.
a few sliders. Imagine like you just want to be like, oh, I want to make the light brighter. Okay, I'm just gonna like slide on the slider, and that's
For
it.
sure.
But something needs to happen in the backend, so it's all in C++. So that's where I really learned C++.
Oh, so
Because-
you also communicated as a front end designer to be like, what do you want? And then.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So you talk
I
to the
see.
artist, you're like, what do you want? And they're like, here's something I want.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm gonna go in and do it.
Yeah.
And then you do it, and then you iterate. It's like a cycle. You're sort of
Yeah.
like, you make
I see,
something,
I
you
see.
show them, they're like, actually I want this. And then you go back and you do something different, and then you show them.
Okay, but it's more complex. I guess it's kind of like photoshopping. Like you have one button to like increase,
Essentially, like, so like,
decrease.
imagine what Photoshop does for photos.
Yeah, but it
Like
does it
Touch
for.
Designer does it for like concert lights, or like museum lights, or like
Oh.
anything,
So
like,
like
it's-
lots of pixels. What do you
Yeah.
say? It's like more embedded. 'Cause
yeah,
do you
actually,
work with
so like the engine
Mm-hmm.
accepts a lot of like peripherals or inputs, or like it can drive a lot of like devices. So
Yeah.
like you might be able to, like, sometimes people find like Arduino boards really hard to code.
Yeah, yeah.
But
we
it can
had a
use-
hackathon playing with the Arduino,
the Arduino
like,
board, yeah.
Anyways.
But you can use like Touch Designer to easily control the Arduino, because like there's not coding involved so much, because like you can use these like blocks of like tools that we already coded up for you and just like put it in and you're like,
Okay,
you see it.
so imagine software engineering, you do like APIs, but I guess for Cina's job, he's also building the APIs for like people with like low code experience, like for designers who have low code experience.
Yeah.
That's essentially your job.
Yeah.
Wow,
Because like in
okay.
a lot of industries, there's a lot of creative people and they're just only limited by the language problem. Like because they cannot code, they cannot do many things, right? So like we're just sort of like removing that barrier or like making it less deep, so like they can actually achieve whatever they want.
Okay, so wow, that's your second internship.
Yeah.
So like, are all of your internships after that related to computer graphics? Would you say that the derivative job kind of opened you
Yeah.
to the world of computer graphics?
That's pretty much what happened.